right, let's start with, this is the one that was written by Thomas Haynes, right? Okay, let's go ahead and see what you guys came up with. Why don't somebody, one of y'all read it first, and then, go ahead, Quentin.
All I know is a door into the dark, outside, old axles and iron hoops rustling. Inside the hammered anvil short pitch room, the unpredictable fantail sparks, or hiss when a new shoe toughens in water. The anvil must be somewhere in the center, worn as a unicorn at one end and square, set there immovable and altar, where he expands himself in shape and music. Sometimes, leather thrown hairs in his nose, he leans out on the jam, recalls the clatter of hooves where traffic is flashing and roads, then grunts and goes in with a slam and flip to beat real iron out, to work the bellows.
Okay, that's an example of a sonnet that is not a love poem. Most of them are usually, almost all the Shakespearean sonnets are dealing with love in some way or another. But this is an example of a modern sonnet that is not about love. So how did y'all analyze this poem?
It's a blacksmith,
Okay.
and this poem is kind of like he's expressing himself in a expression.
Good.
And take it away, Gil. That's all I got.
Well, it was kind of a riddle,
Yeah.
really. This one's kind of a riddle, and Ovenbird is kind of a riddle, which is why I gave it to Trevor over there.
Yeah.
And kind of, riddle, but yeah, so it's a blacksmith, and I would absolutely agree with that. He's expressing himself because, think of like a blacksmith. So what does a blacksmith do, by the way? Yeah.
Like metal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I mean, they can do different things, but one of the things, and I think this is why it's talking about horses, basically, because it's talking about, and I'm sorry, I don't have a copy in front of me. I don't know what I gave out my last one, but anyway, but it's describing also and talking about horses. So a blacksmith is also somebody that would do, put shoes on horses, especially back, like think pre-automobiles when that was the main mode of transportation was riding horses. And so you think about how busy and how important a job that was to be able to, be a blacksmith and to be able to put shoes on horses and this sort of thing. So he's talking about horses, and he talks about towards the end, he looks outside his jam, Jamb, which would be kind of like a doorway or something, a door jam. And he sees, more or less, he's talking about the horses going by and this sort of thing. So that's obviously one of the main things probably he does is put shoes on horses. But if you think about it, that type of profession, probably not a lot of room to express yourself. And so maybe this was kind of his way of, coming out of his, maybe he kind of looked at his job as being drudgery and tired of it and all. So this is his opportunity to kind of come out and do something different and express himself. So, okay, good job. All right, let's see. Who wants to? So y'all have the Edmund St. Vincent Millay.
Yes.
I have a recording of this. Let's listen to it. Not that I don't think you would do a great job reading it, Maren, but just to kind of do something a little bit different. And I'll be honest, I have not heard it yet, so it may be totally terrible, but let's listen anyway.
I shall forget you, Featherstone, my dear. So make the most of this, your little day, your little month, your little half a year, ere I forget, or die, or move away, and we are done forever. By and by, I shall forget you, as I said. But now, if you entreat me with your loveliest lie, I will protest you with my favorite vow. I would indeed that love were longer lived, and oaths were not so brittle as they are, but so it is. And nature has contrived to struggle on without a break thus far. Whether or not we find what we are seeking is idle, biologically speaking.
Okay, that's kind of a cool little poem there. That was actually her reading it too, by the way, so. Maybe a little bit difficult to understand. Why don't you go ahead and just read
I could be
it?
wrong. I may be dead wrong, but I
That's
thought I was
okay.
saying,
What
Well, you
lips
know
my lips have kissed,
Why don't you
and
read it
where
and
and why, I have
she pronounced,
forgotten.
why did she say vow as
And
no?
what arms have lain under my head till morning,
Probably.
Is she
under
just
my
saying
head
it's wrong
till
or?
morning.
I don't know.
And the
I don't
rain,
know who this is. Somebody else is now reading it. Is that somebody? Oh, no, this is somebody else. Okay, I didn't mean to write again, but, Mary, why don't you read it again before you do the analysis? Because it was kind of a little bit hard to understand her in some places.
Okay. I shall forget you presently, my dear, so make the most of this, your little day, your little month, your little half a year, ere I forget or die or move away, and we are done forever, by and by. I shall forget you, as I said, but now, if you entreat me with your loveliest lie, I will protest you with my favorite vow. I would indeed that love were longer lived, and vows were not so brittle as they are. But so it is, and nature has contrived to struggle on without a break thus far. Whether or not we find what we are seeking is idle, biologically speaking.
All right. What's the tone of that?
It's kind of like she's being sensible about it, or frank. She's saying, listen, this is the way it is.
Yeah, she's definitely very frank. Absolutely. Well, you know what? On that note, this, no, I need to look up and see when this was published. Probably would have been around the mid 1920s to early 1930s. And this would make a lot of sense, that she is frank, because that was during the time of the realists. So realism, the realists would be like, Jack London. I remember reading him last year in 1302 to build a fire. Also, who else am I thinking of? F. Scott Fitzgerald, who wrote Great Gatsby. He was considered to be a realist. And so it would make sense. That was the kind of the genre that was popular at that time period. So it would make some sense that she is very frank. I agree with that. Okay, go ahead.
I was thinking that she's saying that even though she loves them now, she's gonna forget them, sort of inevitable. And she even goes on to say, now if you were, she kind of says, if you entreat me with your loveliest lie, like we can pretend maybe, we can pretend that it's not this way, but it is. And it kind of, you know what I mean? It's kind of like she's being very frank about it. She's saying this is gonna happen. There's nothing we can do,
Okay.
but we can act like it, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well, let me ask you this. That first line, I shall forget you presently, my
I
dear.
thought that was important.
Huh?
She calls him my dear. So it's like she loves him, or I don't know,
Oh, I would say she definitely loves him.
but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And why do you think she's saying, I shall forget you presently? So why do you think that she is saying she's going to forget him? I mean, what do you think might have happened? Well, let me ask you this. Do you think she's angry?
At what? At having to forget?
Well, maybe this person that it's directed to.
I don't know.
Well, everybody's going to interpret it differently, but I definitely think that this is somebody she's still in love with. But it sounds like maybe they've done something to really deeply hurt her, and she's breaking it off with them. I shall forget you presently, so she's going to try and forget about him. But again, there's no right or wrong interpretation or analysis. Y'all are going to look at things differently than probably how I would look at things, because I'm older. I've had different life experiences than what you guys have had, so I'm going to look at it differently. But I think certainly we can agree that she's still in love with him. and we are done forever. So for me, that tells me that maybe she's breaking things off with him. But I think it's not because she wants to, because then we have towards the little bit past the middle, I would indeed that love were longer lived.
Yeah.
And vows were not so brittle as they are. So she wishes that they could continue to be together, and she wishes love were longer lived, that love lasted longer, and vows were not so brittle. So to me, that tells me that maybe this is someone she's married to, and if, not literal vows, it may be that they had made some sort of promise to each other, maybe to be true to each other, or something like that. But they're brittle, so somebody broke the vows, and that would kind of tell me it's probably whoever this narrator is talking to. So my guess is he did something. I'm saying he, maybe it's not he, I don't know for sure, but that whoever this is addressed to is very deeply hurt this person, this woman. What do you make of the last two lines? Whether or not we find what we are seeking is idle, biologically speaking. That's kind of a, I don't know. That's kind of,
I don't know what idol is in that context. Like it doesn't matter, or
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say, because the line before it, whether or not we find what we are seeking is idle, it doesn't really matter.
because you're gonna die, I guess.
Or, well, that could be it. The way I was kind of taking it, what we're looking for doesn't really matter because biologically speaking, to me, this is almost like maybe, that saying the heart wants what the heart wants. You can't,
I kind of got like a different.
okay, what are you taking?
I kind of got that she was like saying that love was like it doesn't last forever, like it just dies.
Excellent. Yeah.
That's what I thought she was saying, like the last part.
About the biological part.
Yeah, like biologically speaking, like even if they love each other, it's not gonna last.
I think that's a great interpretation of this. It certainly could be that, absolutely. That's one of the things I love about analysis, whether it's with poetry or it's stories, is because everybody reads and interprets things differently, and there's no right or wrong way. I'm certainly not one that's going to stand up here or look at an analysis that you've done and say this is wrong. Who am I to make that? Who am I to say that? Because your analysis is every bit as feasible as what I would come up with, unless it's just something way out there or something. But yeah, I think that's it absolutely could be really good. Okay, good job. Anything else I want to add to this? We haven't even talked about. I forgot to ask you guys, but did y'all notice the rhyme scheme or look at the rhyme scheme on yours? What was your rhyme scheme?
A B C A C D T C E F G F E A.
Okay, so okay, so not like Shakespeare's. He always followed that A B A B C D C D and on with a couplet at the end that rhymed. One of the poems is very similar to Shakespearean sonnet with the rhyme scheme and all. So, did y'all look at your rhyme scheme? What did y'all come up with?
I got A B C D E F G F and the couplet.
Okay, so Edna, she very much wrote it like Shakespeare, like William. Edna and William. Okay, good, very good. So who wants to go next? Who else do we have? Let's see. We're going to say Yardbird for last. Does somebody have those winter Sundays? Which one did y'all have, Haley?
If we must die.
Okay, let's do that one.
If we must die, let it not be like logs, hunted and penned in an inglorious flight, while round us bark the mad and hungry dogs, making their mock at our accursed lot. If we must die, oh let us nobly die, so that our precious blood may not be shed in vain, then even the monsters we defy shall be constrained on us so day. O kinsmen, we must meet the common foe, though far outnumbered, let us go us brave, and for their thousand blows deal one death blow. What go before us lies the open grave. Like men will face the murderous cowardly pressed to the wall, dying but fighting back.
All right, good, thanks, Haley. So, what y'all come up with for an analysis?
They don't want to die like in a demeaning or unhonorable way. They want to die nobly and fighting back, giving their all.
Good. Who do you think, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm really not familiar with Claude McKay, but who does this poem sound like it almost could have been written by? Yeah, very much so. I mean, this sounds like something, they want to die nobly. They're going to, like, men will face the murderous, cowardly pack, pressed to the wall, dying but fighting back. So no matter what, they're not going to give up, and they want to die nobly. So, yeah, to me, that sounds very much like, this would be actually a really good companion piece, a modern, I mean, it is a sonnet, of course, but almost like a companion piece to the Viking poetry, and that it's a modern day, almost with the Viking poetry, what it was saying in the same kind of theme and all. Okay, good. What about rhyme scheme?
I got A, B, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, G, G.
Okay, so much like Shakespeare right there, follow that same pattern. Okay, good job. All right, who else do we have? Okay, y'all had Yardbird. What did y'all have? Okay, y'all had Yardbird, okay. Trevor, wake up. Another analysis is in Trevor's future. Trevor. Yardbird, take it away. Tell us, what was the analysis? What kind of bird is it talking about?
The poem thing?
Yeah, the poem thing,
Tweety bird,
yes.
songbird,
Hmm?
annoying bird, the creepy ones.
Creepy birds?
Yeah, songbird.
Oh,
Yeah.
you think songbirds are creepy?
No, they're annoying.
Oh, annoying, okay. All right, so you think that the yard bird is, okay, all right. Well, I see you have some more things written down.
I did
What
have
other,
no idea. I was notes.
okay, what else did you say, or did you?
That
think
it's a
about it?
bad songbird because it sings all the time, but it's bad at singing.
Okay. Bad songbird, bad. Go back to the corner.
And it sings in the midsummer after the early petals. That's like spring or something, right?
Yeah.
And so it sings then, and then it likes to sing in the shade and cooler, and it likes to fall.
Like the fall?
Yep.
Oh, okay, all right, well, okay, that's pretty good analysis there. Let's see what you guys come up with for yard bird.
Did you want us to read it?
Yeah, go ahead and read it.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be good. Go ahead and read it.
There is a singer everyone has heard, loud, a midsummer and a midwood bird, who makes the solid tree trunks sound again. He says that leaves are old and that for flowers, midsummer is to spring as 1 to 10. He says the early petal fall is past, when pear and cherry blossom went down in showers. On sunny days, the moment will be past, and comes that other fall we name the fall. He says the highway dust is over all. The bird would cease and be as other birds, but that he knows in singing not to sing. The question that he frames in all but words is what to make of the diminished thing.
Okay, so what did y'all come up with?
So I can tell you what's happening, but I don't know if I can tell you what it means.
Okay, that's all right, go ahead.
So there's a bird, obviously.
Which is what Trevor said.
Yep.
Did y'all think he sang that too?
No, I think he stopped singing because it was fall, so he left, because it said, it talks about changing seasons.
Yeah, okay.
So the bird stopped singing,
All right.
and it says something about how it's a long period of time between middle of summer and spring when they come back.
Yes,
Um,
okay.
Yeah, I don't know what it means, but
Okay, well, that's okay. The rest of you guys, did y'all have an idea? I don't remember who I was doing this before. What did y'all come up with something? Anything else with it?
Not really. Well,
I think it has something to do with the seasons part of it.
Okay.
You said seasons.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. I will tell you what, in fifth period, and I thought this was pretty clever, because I didn't think of this. They think that this is talking about a woodpecker.
Yeah, that's
that's
what
what
we
we're
just,
Yeah,
because it said, who makes the solid tree trunks sound?
exactly. So, yeah, and I didn't catch that part, but anyway, that's what they thought too. Yeah. How do you think, okay, let me ask you this. Why do you think the name of this poem, why Robert Frost gave this poem the name Ovenbird? Do you have any idea?
Is it because like when the steam goes away, like it goes away and comes back in its way or something? I don't know.
Maybe.
Starts to heat up again, I guess it comes back.
Okay, that's a good point, because, I'll be honest, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of not fitting in a way, but I'm sure there is some kind of meaning. That could be, because an oven obviously is hot, and that's when the bird's gonna return, is when it warms up, it goes away for the winter, and then it comes back. Your guess is as good as mine, so certainly that could be, or like bread or something in the oven, when it's ready, it comes back. I don't know. I really don't know. This to me was a pretty difficult poem, kind of to analyze. But Robert Frost, I will tell y'all that he, maybe if we have time, we'll read it. If not, we'll read it certainly when we get into American literature next semester. But so Robert Frost is, he's a modern, he's passed away and all, but he was considered a modern poet, and he was from, I believe it was Pennsylvania, and his work, one of my very favorite poems he wrote, actually, The Road Less Taken. You know, heard of that? Beautiful poem, just beautiful. I just love it. And but he's another one. He's pretty gritty, and he often talks about nature a lot in his poems. But he also, I think this was my fifth period class I was talking to, and he wrote another poem called Out Out. Has anybody ever read that? I think it's in like the freshman, or probably the freshman textbook, but it's really kind of a disturbing poem, but it's very realistic in a way. It's about this family that, they're farmers, and they let the youngest son, or one of their sons, who's, I don't know, I think 9 or 10 or something, they're working out in the fields, whatever, and they give him the electric saw. And so he's trying, they're kind of watching, and he's trying to cut a tree down, or whatever it was, twig or something, limb maybe. And one of the daughters comes out and yells dinner, and it startles the little boy, and he drops it, and it severs his hand. And so they take him in, and they call the country doctor. And so anyway, Out is talking about, well, I guess two things. He's losing blood, obviously, but also he's running out of life. And so he dies. The kid dies, and they kind of go on about their day in a way. There's not much, and it's kind of like, wow, that's so. But you also think about, I mean, this is they're farmers, and they have to be able to continue. That's how they eat, they live. They have to be able to continue harvesting their crops. So it's sort of it's probably, very difficult for us to think about that somebody could just go back after losing their son, or, their brother, and this sort of thing. But that's just kind of how it was, in farming communities like this. And this probably would be taking place turn of the century, because he had an electric saw. But anyway, sometime, and it's a disturbing poem, but it's also very, I think, to some extent, it's very realistic too. But anyway, he's very much kind of that same vein, with realism and everything. So anyway, great poet though, great poet. All right, did we get everybody? Did you get everybody? Oh,
Yeah, I did it in the day.
Oh, okay. All right, did we get everyone? Okay. All right, so we're gonna start, we'll go over a few more things tomorrow, just to kind of wrap up Shakespeare. We're gonna read a few more of his poems. We've only actually read one so far, but we're gonna read some of the earlier ones. So, with the first one we read, or the only one we read, was Sonnet 18, but we're gonna read, one before, because 1 through 17 is addressed to the, fair-haired young man, and they're really good. They're lovely poems. But they're, it's very much like giving him advice. So we'll read those, and then at 18, which is the one we read, they take on a very different tone. They're still addressed to the fair-haired young man, but they, like 18 and all, they're much more love poems. And the earlier ones, it's not that they're not love poems, but they take on, they're very different tone, and they're just very different. And then we'll read a couple of his poems that were, where he's talking about the dark woman. He's referred to as the dark woman. And those are very different poems too, because they're very dark. I mean, literally, they're quite dark, and they're very much a lot of guilt. You can read kind of between the lines. And certainly, this narrator is feeling very guilty, probably because he's attracted to or in love with this dark woman, and maybe he's moved to someone else. But anyway, so we'll read some of those tomorrow and wrap up Shakespeare. Next week, we will start. In fact, I'm going to try to get this. I would have had it ready for you guys today, but both of our copiers are down, so I'm going to make sure we get them ordered. But next week, we're going to start. So y'all listen a minute. Next week, we're going to start on the Renaissance. So we're going to read Jonathan Swift's A Modest Proposal. So the Renaissance during that time, it was a lot of their work tended to be a lot of satire, a lot of irony, this sort of thing. And so, anyway, we'll read his work, his one. Well, this is the only one. He has a lot of work, but we're just going to read this one. It was really, in a way, kind of a more of a political tract to some extent. But anyway, we're going to read it, and then we'll also probably towards the end of the week, we will start talking about romanticism. So, and we'll also be reading Shelley, both Shelleys. We're going to start with reading Percy Bysshe Shelley, the poet, because he was the husband of Mary Shelley. So I kind of like to read him first, and then we read Frankenstein, or talk about, we're not going to read it in class, obviously, but we're going to talk about Frankenstein. So we haven't started reading it, and you need to do that pretty quick, because we will, not next week, but the next, we will definitely be talking about Frankenstein. So make sure that you're bringing your book to class. Like I said, we won't get to it next week, but that next week you need to start bringing the book to class. Okay? All right, you don't have a whole lot of time left, but if you want to take some time to work on your, we only have about, 8 minutes. I think it's really enough time to get out Chromebooks now. But if we have a little bit of time at the end of the period tomorrow, I'll come to work on your sonnet analysis. Remember, those are going to be due on Monday.